Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we will present about reasons for the success leadership of Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih. The weakness in the management of the leadership, military and defense systems of the state is one of the factors in the collapse of a government. This can be seen through the history of the past civilizations, that all civilizations have been destroyed due to the negligence of the government in managing the country's military and defense system better. For finding the best leader example, Islamic history has recorded many leaders of good characters, one of whom is Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih. Al-Fatih's real name is Muhammad bin Murad, better known as Sultan Muhammad II or Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih, referring to his success as the pioneer or conqueror of Constantinople. Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih, known as Mehmed II, he was the ruler of the Ottoman Empire at the age of 19 and ruled for 30 years. He was known as the Islamic warrior that conquered Constantinople. He was given the nickname Al-Fatih, means the opener, as he the one that opened Constantinople. Next, the reason of success strategy of leadership of Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih. Strategy is an essential element in ensuring a successful outcome of an activity. Failure to achieve a goal or an objective is normally attributed to the lack of accurate and systematic strategic planning. Strategy means a planning effort done before any war by utilizing all available resources for the purpose of the war in continuing the advantages in the war. Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih is not unfamiliar to the tactical and technical aspect of a war. The pattern of pre-war strategies adopted by Al-Fatih is of the type grand strategy. Grand strategy is the process by which all the means available to the state are considered in pursuit of continuing political influence. During Al-Fatih rule, it was found that the pre-war strategies were planned and executed in the spheres of military, war strategy, politics and economy.
In the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Anfal, verse 60, with the meaning of the verse, and prepare against them whatever strength you can, and from horses prepared for battle, by which you frighten the enemies of Allah, and your enemies and people besides them, whom you do not know, while God knows. Whatever you spend in the way of Allah will surely be recompensed to you sufficiently, and you will not be wrong, which is harm. Based on Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Allah ordered to prepare the equipment of war to fight them according to their abilities and facilities. With that preparation, you are frightening the enemies of Allah, and that is from among the disbelievers, which categorized as hypocrites, specifically named munafiq. And whatever you spend for jihad, then Allah will reward you completely. What is military strategy? Military strategy employs the threat or use of military force to develop an overall strategy to achieve goals against an opponent. Without it, the war's ultimate goal and victory will be impossible to achieve. Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih was said to be a military genius in Islamic history. There are two reasons which can prove this sentence. Firstly, Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih was the only sultan and army chief to conquer Constantinople. After the death of Sultan Murad II, Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih was appointed to occupy Ottoman Empire. Besides, Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih was also an incredibly gifted military strategist. Some of the strategies that were used, including a variety of humanitarian guarantees, as well as environmental preservation, also prohibits the killing of women, children, and parents, as well as the prohibits of the destruction of property. Most of the wars led by Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih gained victory. What are the military strategies that he used? One of the military strategies was Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih having a massive number of armies. And this was one of the crucial points. It is because his forces not only included thousands of foot soldiers and cavalrymen, but also archers, gunners, armorers, gun carriage drivers, and bombardiers from across the region. The second strategy was technology innovation. For example, during the conquest of Constantinople, he hired a Hungarian engineer to acquire a new artillery technology. The technology was only owned by Ottoman, which no other nations possessed. This means that Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih was brilliant for choosing only powerful technology to defeat the enemies. Last but not least, Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih also focused on psychological strength, which we know that is significant to deal with in every war. To boost his soldiers' morale, he even disguised himself as one of the soldiers to enter the army tents and speak to them with the word of courage, high spirits, and motivation. This is so essential as the soldiers put a lot of trust in their leaders.
Next is war strategy. By definition, strategy is the planning, coordination, and general direction of military operations to meet overall political and military objectives. For the next part, we will talk about war strategy that used by Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih. As we all know, Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih was the only sultan and army chief to defeat Constantine and conquer Constantinople, something no other sultan had ever done. He used some genius strategy in order to do that. To keep the Romans out, he built the wall of Rumeli Hisa and equipped his army with the latest warfare technology, a new artillery technology which other nations had not owned yet, except for the Ottoman at the time, was bought from a Hungarian engineer. He then formulated a new strategy by learning other sultans and Islamic see the mistake in overthrowing the Byzantine rule in Constantinople. But there is to attack the city from two fronts, the land and the sea. Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih understood that many other sultan before used the land tactic to capture the city. This is failed because the Byzantine were not affected by this, seeing that they used the sea for trade routes and war supplies. So to bypass this issue, Muhammad Al-Fatih positioned his foot soldiers and cavalrymen on the land, while his naval men were stationed at the seaways to barricade the ships and carrying aid and war supplies from other Christian nations. Lastly, Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih ensured his war strategy success by taking a long and difficult road to Constantinople. This clouded Byzantine rulers, thinking as it was unclear if the Ottoman were heading for them. The Sultan used this tactic and the rulers surrendered to him without even putting a fight, as they did not know the Ottoman were at their doorstep, leaving them unprepared. Then we talk about strategic planning from the Islamic perspective. In the Quran, Allah repeatedly reminds us that Allah SWT is the best planner. For instance, Allah talk about His planning and the sign of His perfect plan in the Surah Al-Hadid verse 22 means no disaster strike upon the earth or among yourself except that is in a register before you bring it into being. Indeed, for Allah is easy. According to Tafsir Ibn Kathir, in this verse, Allah reminds of His measuring and deciding the destiny of all things before He created the creation. No calamity occurs on the earth nor in yourself. There is nothing that touches you or happens in existence, but it is increased in the book of decrees before we bring it into existence. From this verse, Allah clearly showed that the both conception and result of creation are according to a plan. Planning for short-term and long-term project is undoubtedly work based on foresight. If Allah loves those with vision and wisdom, Muslims ought to be racing one another to plan so that they would be among of insight and understanding.
Politics in general is a broad term that refers to a variety of activities linked with group decision-making or other forms of power relations among the individuals, such as resource distribution or status. A political approach might be conceived in variety of ways, such as extensive and limited, moralism and realism, also conflict and cooperation. For politics strategy by Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih to conquest of Constantinople, firstly he became a peace and tolerant leader by having an organized educational system supervised by a group of notable academics at the time. This group of intellectuals had an enormous influence on the king's character and worldwide, which influenced him to become a pious and tolerant leader. Then he also had been reviewing and studying his father's effort to capture Constantinople since he was a child. He examined the design of the city of Constantinople in detail every night for the first 2 years after inheriting the throne in the year 1451 to find any weaknesses in the capital. He also discussed and talked with leaders about the reasons for the failure of the previous Islamist leaders' campaigns. Based on the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad SAW, La tuftahanna al-Qustantiniyatu falina'mal amiru amiruha falina'mal jaysu zalikal jaysu, rawahul Imam Ahmad, which the translation of the hadith is, indeed Constantinople will will really be able to open in the lanes of a man. So it is better the leader is the leader and the army is the army. He has proved the truth of hadith of the Prophet Muhammad SAW. Furthermore, the conquest of Constantinople through various strategies and planning, which is open the route of conquest to Europe, sealing diplomatic or peace treaties with numerous states that could potentially disrupt war efforts by offering aid to another hostile state in the political tactic being discussed. The obligation of the states to respect the Ottoman ceasefire and not meddle in any Ottoman military issues with other states are stipulated in these treaties. Finally, Mehmed the Ottomans completed the territorial unification and expansion of the empire into Europe, which is Serbia, Chypre, Romania, Albania, Bosnia, Herzegovina. The unification operation was carried out in order to thwart the Magyars' onslaught. To accomplish this, he had to seize control of Serbia's government. Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih also defeated the military alliance formed by the Albanian government to remove him. The Ottoman Turkish government's power grew in Europe as a result of this success. The name of the city of Constantinople was changed to Istanbul. Istanbul was made the capital during the reign of the Ottoman Caliphate.
Now we come to the next point, which is about economy. Why is economic strength so important for a country, especially when it comes to war? This is due to the enormous expenditures involved in supplying modern weaponry, security and transportation for the military while they are in war. In order to improve the economy, leaders and citizens must play their respective roles. Leaders must strive to find ways to strengthen their country's economy, while the people must work in various fields. Remember, every job done must be accepted in Islam. Allah Almighty said, "A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون." Sadaqallahul Azim. Surah Al-Jumu'ah ayat 10. Means once the prayer is over, disperse throughout the land and seek the bounty of Allah, and remember Allah often so you may be successful. Based on Tafsir Ibn Kathir, once the prayer is over means when the Friday prayer is finished. Disperse throughout the land and seek the bounty of Allah means after Allah forbade Muslims from working, after hearing the azan and ordered them to gather for the Friday prayer, He allowed them to spread throughout the earth and seek bounty after the prayer is finished. And remember Allah often so you may be successful means while you are buying and selling, giving and taking, remember Allah much and do not let this life busy you from what benefits you in the hereafter. Here, the main point which is economic strategies by Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih. So, as an intelligent leader, Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih created a few strategies to enhance the economy of the Ottoman Empire in preparation for war. Firstly, he instituted a new economic policy which forbade any one person from controlling the trade in necessary items like candles and salt. Instead, the government will take over to control the trade sector. This approach might have a positive impact on the economy of the Ottoman Empire in a roundabout way since it had the effect of lowering the personal income of people participating in the trade as a result of the high prices at which things were resold. Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih also enacted a law which punished those who broke such trade rules as a component of his general economic strategy. Other than that, in terms of taxes, Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih raised existing taxes and collect taxes from the ships that were too close to Rumeli himself. Last but not least, Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih also increased the Ufti, also known as a protection money to states under the protection of the Ottoman Empire, such as the Eastern Hungarian Monarchy and the Serbian Deputation.
For the conclusion, the persistence and struggle of Sultan Muhammad Al-Fatih in spreading the teachings of Islam has had a profound effect on the Islamic government at that time. His leadership is on the true faith, the Quran as well as the Sunnah become the Qudwah of all time and should be modeled today. His administration has a significant impact on the excellence of Islamic rule, especially in terms of military and defense. Many comrades, even opponents, admire the leaderships of Muhammad Al-Fatih and strategies wars that precede that era. He played a major in the expansion of Islamic territory, settling the lands, making improvement in the economic, educational, and keenly concerned about the welfare of its people. In his leadership, the center of the government of Istanbul was incredibly beautiful, advanced, and economically successful. I think that's all from our group. Thank you for your attention and hope all of you will enjoy this video.